Let me provide some levels of context for what I want to announce today. Texas has been striving for the past 10 years to ensure that we deliver excellence in education. There are some solid metrics you can look at to see whether or not that is being achieved. One standard that I set when I first became governor is I saw other states leading Texas as a concern the number of Tier 1 research universities. I said, well, Texas should be number one for research universities. And I can tell you that because of the measures that we've taken since that time, today as we gather at SFA, Texas now ranks number one in the United States for the most Tier 1 research universities. Sec- sec- Second, we know that there's more to a good quality education than just the excellence component. There's also the affordability issue. We know that we will be able to attract and to retain more students at our universities, the more that we can make that education affordable. We've already taken action long before this day to make and going to college more affordable in the state of Texas. For one, we have frozen tuition and fees since 2023. For another, we have expanded financial aid by more than $300 million just over the past 2 years. And we provided a new program, a free college application week, where students across the state can apply to any public university in the state of Texas for absolutely no cost, making it easier and more affordable for those applications. And then yesterday, I announced new legislation to cut the cost of summer courses that count toward a college degree, making it again a lower cost for students to be able to take classes and for have to be on the pathway to graduating earning. But the cost of a college degree goes beyond just the cost of tuition. Every additional year means more tuition and fees, but also more in housing and living expenses. And with that more time, is time before students are able to go into the job that they are seeking while they're in college. So I'm proposing legislation that cuts through all of that. Legislation that will give students the option to earn certain bachelor degrees in 3 years as opposed to 4 years. Public universities will be required to offer accelerated 90 credit hour degree programs in high demand fields, allowing students to be able to graduate from college a year sooner that could save them up to $35,000 off of their college costs, including costs and tuition and living expenses, and importantly, put them on the pathway to start earning a living in a high-paying job a lot soon. One thing that began this process is a letter today that I sent to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. What it says is, among other things, I'm directing the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board to convene a working group immediately to develop a statewide framework for establishing 3-year bachelor's degree pathways. The Higher Education Coordinating Board is the state agency in charge of this planning process, in charge of constructing this process, in charge of establishing what's required for degrees in the state. They don't, however, work in isolation. They work in collaboration with our universities, with our legislators, with students, with parents, to make sure they are shaping products that will be used, that will lower cost, but also will ensure that we retain and actually improve upon the excellence that already exists in higher education. A large group of students from SFA right here. As usual, it's the students, the people who are working through the degree program, the people who are putting the bill sometimes themselves and have to maybe live with future debt. This is legislation that will impact them and their families the most. We want to make sure all those students are going to have access to the best education they can get at an affordable price so that they can live with the consequences of the cost of higher education as they go into a very productive society. Last thing I'll tell you is what I share with students, and that is because the Texas economy is booming, Texas ranks number one in the United States for the most new jobs. There's high demand from employers across the state for more college-educated and trained students to go directly into the workforce. This will assist Stephen F. Austin as well as all of our other universities to make sure they're graduating more of these highly qualified and skilled and trained students who are ready on day one to go fill the need of the building number of employers that we have on our staff. With that, I'll be happy to take a few questions.
Is this for all colleges in Texas?
This is for all public universities and colleges in the state of Texas.
However, this is a 90 credit hour degree years. Does that mean more workload for students, or how does that get spread out?
So for a typical 4-year program, that would be 120 hours. This would be 90 hours, so it's fewer hours. But it would concentrate some or much of those hours within a specialized field. Let me give you an example or two. Think of cybersecurity. Think of supply chain management, different areas like that that are high demand right now. And it would allow those students to graduate with a highly sought after degree for employers that want those students not next year, but right now.
So basically, it gets rid of the basic classes and goes straight into that degree.
Well, I wouldn't say it gets rid of the basic classes. There are certain basic classes that would still be required here, and that would be established by the Higher Education Coordinating Board. It would probably take the place of a lot of selective optional classes. We used to call them electives. I don't know if we still call that today or not. Yeah, so they may have fewer electives and just a more concentration in their subject field and expertise.
Once the earliest students can maybe see this option for them to participate in.
It could be applicable as soon as the beginning of the next school year. The process works this way, and that is the Higher Education Coordinating Board is working on it as we speak right now. The next step is to work in collaboration with universities as well as with legislators. Legislation will be filed on this, could be filed even before January. Legislators will start working on it come January. There'll be legislation passed on it in May. The effective date will either be sometime over the summer or the latest September 1 of next year. But this will be ready to go for the next school.
You talked about having it in high demand fields. You mentioned cybersecurity. What are other options that are going to be available for this degree program?
So very importantly, that's going to be up to the Higher Education Coordinating Board. Again, working in collaboration with colleges where they will know what those fields are. I can give you, well, I told you two. Another one that I'm aware of is information technology. There could be some other areas. One thing that we all know, right, and there's extraordinary demand and inadequate supply of nurses, for example. And I'm not sure how the nursing programs work, but the people who focus on creating curriculum and degree programs, like the Higher Education Coordinating Board, they'll be the ones who structure those that are most sought after. We're looking for the degree programs where there's already very high demand for graduates in those areas. So the goal will be knowing that these are students who can graduate earlier. They will know they will go directed to a good paying job in a high demand field.
And you kind of touched upon this, but why is it so important to have this in Texas? Obviously, we're here in Nacogdoches in East Texas. Why is this so important to have?
Well, it's important to have for two reasons. One is part of the process of making higher education more affordable. Now, there is a reality among some students, and that is a student may enroll in the university, but may not stay because it simply costs too much. And because Texas has such a robust job market, they could get a job offer for an employer paying them $90,000 a year right now, and they're wondering, well, why am I spending so much in tuition when I could get money right now? This is a way of actually retaining more students in our universities, getting them a good quality degree with training so they can then go get the high-paying job. Also, this isn't the kind of thing that's happening across the entire country, where there's a recalibration in the way that we approach higher education. The higher education in Texas in particular will be more focused on outcomes for students, ensuring our students will be leaving with more than just a degree. They're going to be leaving with a skill set that's very valuable in our state.
Many SFA students are transfers from local junior colleges. How will this move initiative affect community entry?
So, great question that was also raised by one or several of the students. The Higher Education Coordinating Board will work to try to merge the two. Easy again. And that is for the 90 credit hour book, there will be certain required classes. It may be that some of those required classes were taken at another college or university where that credit would count toward the reprogram. Those are fine details that the Higher Ed Coordinating Board and our universities will work on.
Could we see something like this go into like master degrees in the future?
Possibly. Here's a reality. Right now, we got to focus on just the undergraduate degree, and it's not just every undergraduate degree. There will only be a select few of the bachelor degree programs. We got uh, make sure that works, see how well it works, and see if it could be extended. But for right now, focus solely on about 10 or so bachelor degree programs.
For universities, you mentioned you cap the cost of how much they can raise tuition or rates and stuff like that. I guess where do we find that middle ground? Take UT Tyler, for example. They had a $12 million budget deficit. Staff and faculty had to take buyouts. Where do we find that middle ground with funding?
Well, part of that deals with making sure that all the courses that are being offered, they have a large number of students enrolling in. Easy example of what the higher Fording Board worked on, and that is they in our universities, UT system for example, they are eliminating degree programs where there may only be like 4 or 5 students.